I believe the veil is thin, that our Angelcestors are always nearby. I'm your host, Bernice L. McFadden, and this is Angelcestor, the sacred space where memory meets the mystical and storytelling becomes ceremony and celebration. Each episode is an offering, words spoken for those who no longer speak but are never silent. This is love work. This is ancestor veneration. This is Angelcestor, the podcast.
Angelcestor, the podcast, is a protected work. All stories, recordings, and materials shared here are the sole copyright of Bernice L. McFadden. Please don't reproduce or reuse anything you hear without written permission. Thank you for respecting the sacred nature of these stories. Hello, everyone. This is part 2 of our special series on the origins of Angelcestor. I'm Monique at Monique_the Moso Muse on Instagram, creator of the Moso Nation, and podcast host of Turn Up the Volume. For this series, I have the honor of stepping in as a guest interviewer to unpack this sacred philosophy with Bernice. If you caught our last conversation, you know we went there. We peeled back the layers of where Angelcestor came from, how it found Bernice, and why it's not just a word, but a way of seeing the world. But we're not done. What you may not have realized is that Angelcestor has always been present in Bernice's work. Every novel, every character, every moment of memory or pain, there's been a thread connecting the living to the unseen. Today, we're pulling that thread with reverence and curiosity. In this episode, we're stepping inside the stories, her books, and asking what happens when we read them through the lens of lineage. What wisdom rises when literature becomes spiritual remembrance? So settle in. This isn't just an interview, it's a continuation of stories of legacy of Angelcestors who've been guiding us all along. Let's get into it. Hello, Bernice. I am so glad to be back.
Yes, hello, and happy full moon.
Oh, happy full moon. It's a full moon? I didn't know.
Yeah, the corn moon.
I know. Good stuff. I got to get into that a little bit more for real. Okay, so we're going to dive right in, okay? Because we're just continuing on from our last episode. But you mentioned before in the last episode while writing Firstborn Girls, you kept typing Angel and Ancestor into search engines, and Angelcestor kept appearing. Which characters in that book do you now believe were embodying that in-between?
So yeah, I well, just to clarify, the word came about when I was writing my memoir, and I was typing in ancestor in the manuscript. At least that's what I assumed I was doing. When I went back to look, the word was Angelcestor. So then I went to the search engine and I typed in Angelcestor to see if that word existed, and it did not. And so I was like, well, this is a gift. And what does this mean to me? So now I had to sit down and define it. It took a little while, but I understood that this idea of Angelcestor had always been with me throughout my life. I just did not have the word, like I didn't have the language to describe what that meant to me. And so Angelcestor is basically a divine ancestor who protects and guides the living, right?
Yeah. Good. So you've named how it showed up in Firstborn Girls, but when we widen the lens across your body of work, you've written unforgettable novels, Sugar, Nowhere is a Place, The Book of Harlan, Gathering of Waters, and the list goes on. Do
Mhm.
you now see Angelcestors hidden in those stories?
Absolutely. Starting with Sugar, that's my debut novel. There is an entity in that book named Jude who is guiding the living. She was tragically murdered at the opening of the novel. And over two books, she is guiding people to her murderer. Now, at that time, I'm just thinking ghosts, right? This is a little bit of a ghost story. But now, upon reflection, I understand that Jude was actually an angel sister in that story. Um, I'll move to Gathering of Waters. Gathering of Waters was actually a story that took place in Money, Mississippi. And if you listeners are aware, Money, Mississippi is important to the history of this country because that was the town where Emmett Till was murdered in 1955. And Emmett Till has been with me my entire life because I was born 10 years after he lost his life. And his photo, the photo of him in his coffin at his funeral, was published every year in Jet Magazine. And so I grew up with Jet Magazine. So I saw that photo every single year. And later on in life, when I started doing historical research, obviously he was a person of interest. And I just thought the his story was so tragic. I never thought that I would write a story centering him, but some years into my career, the story came about. And the story is told from the perspective of the town. But in that novel, Emmett Till is an Angelcestor.
Mm,
He's there, he's guiding and he's protecting his love interest when he was alive. And
mm.
so yeah, that concept continues to show up in my novels. As I advanced in my career, it became more prevalent. And now, as I'm working on my latest novel, it's just filled with Angelcestors.
Oh my gosh, that is so. I mean, I'm just, I am sitting here while others are listening, but I am learning so much just from hearing about your books because I haven't had the opportunity to read all of them yet. So I get front row seat with the author, and I'm excited about that. But I digress. So going back to what you just shared, if angel cestors were already walking through these characters, then it almost feels like the books themselves carry the spirit too. Do you see your books as sacred text in their own way?
Yeah, so that's a really profound question. And so I think the way I need to respond is to define what a sacred text is, right? So a sacred text is commonly defined as a holy writing, like the Bible, that groups of people believe in, respect, and follow. It gives guidance and wisdom and spiritual lessons. So uh, I believe that sacred texts can take many forms. Hymns. If you've ever been in a sanctified church, you listen to those hymns and it does something to your spirit. And myths are very powerful sacred texts. I believe this is just my opinion. Um, all of those things help people to find spiritual truths, um, and they foster community and identity and a connection to something bigger than ourselves. So yes, then I think that novels can absolutely be considered sacred texts
Well,
because I think stories, fictional and otherwise, are doing just that.
yeah. No, thank you for that. So now if your novels can be seen as sacred text, then Angelcestor feels like it's giving us a framework for living, not just reading. So you've
Right.
mentioned Angelcestor is more than a name, it's a philosophy. How
Right.
do you describe that philosophy to someone new to it?
So I would say that the angel sister philosophy is rooted in the belief that our ancestors do not vanish, right? They don't vanish into dust,
Yeah.
but they rise into light and they remain present in our lives as guides and protectors.
Mhm.
That's the basic at its heart. Angelcestor is a philosophy of connection, memory, and spiritual continuity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. So hearing you describe the philosophy makes me think about how it moves into practice. And one way you're doing that is by collecting stories.
Yes.
Why is creating that shared space so necessary right now? So, where stories can be submitted. Why do you believe sharing them right now, spiritual stories and community, is important?
So I think sharing angel sister stories in community affirms collective history. I think it builds solidarity and it ensures, right, that these stories are not lost. That's very important, especially we're living in a time where people are rewriting our histories. So this is reclamation work too, right?
Oh, I
And
love.
I want my platform to serve as, I guess, like a living extension of the Angelcestor philosophy.
Yeah.
Everything, this we live in a digital world now,
It's
so it's kind of unavoidable. Um, but yeah, I want memory. I want a place where memory, storytelling, and community can converge.
Yes, yeah, community stories are really powerful, I
Yeah,
believe. But I imagine it also begins with the individual, right? If
yeah.
someone wanted to start their angel cester practice, what might that look like? What would you suggest?
There's so many different ways, right, to practice this philosophy, right? For me, it's through creating art. So art for me is a spiritual practice. At its root, spirituality is about connection, right? To self, to others, to the unseen.
Yeah,
Art making opens all sorts of portals and doors. Um, when a person writes, sings, paint, dance, sculpt, they're entering into a space that is like beyond logic oftentimes. I think I like to think of it as stepping into intuition,
uh-huh.
stepping into memory, stepping into imagination.
Yeah,
I think spirit resides in all of those places. Um, but at its root, like at its foundation, art and spirituality is about connection to self and the beyond,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
think that's just the bottom line.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
No, that's great. That's great. So you've given us a sense of what those small daily rituals might look like, whether it's through art, sculpting, or whatever, even in your journaling, in my writing. And
yeah.
and it makes me wonder, do you see your creative work the same way? And I think you've shared that a bit. Um,
Hmm.
do you
Hmm.
think that art and literature are spiritual practice? So can you go in a little bit more? Because I think you touched on it just a little in the last question, but do you have more to say on that?
I, well, I have always, whenever I talk about my writing, um, I've always felt like it's only 20% me, right? It's 80% the Angelcestors. I feel like a vessel. I always feel like I'm channeling when I'm writing.
Mm,
And I know a lot of artists feel this way, right? Like
yeah,
they're channeling voices and stories and images. So in this sense, creating art, I think for me at least, is me actually being in conversation with my guides, with my Angelcestors.
yeah. Yeah, so
Mm.
yeah, so art, you're saying like you say art shows us connection in so many forms, but I know that some people might feel the opposite, like they don't know where they come from,
Mhm.
without getting too deep, because we'll go there in the next episode. Um, what would you say to someone who says, "I don't know who my ancestors are"?
I would say that they know who you are.
They
It
know.
does. That's fine because they know who you are.
Yeah. No, I love that. Um, yeah, so listen, listen. I don't know about you and everybody who's listening, but I am so grateful to be stretched and schooled in this moment. Bernice, thank you for opening up these layers of where Angelcestor lives, in the stories you've written, and in the stories still to be revealed. What we've touched on today, though, is just the beginning,
Yeah,
right? In our next episode, we'll go even deeper into how this concept shows up in modern life and what it means for people who feel spiritually hungry, but um, yeah, disconnected from religion. That's kind
yeah.
of good. So,
Good
how small,
stuff.
right, how small daily rituals can build and bind us to ancestral memory, and even how art itself can become a sacred practice. So, we'll also talk a little bit about what it means for those who don't know their lineage. We'll go deeper into that and how Angelcestor still meets them in the silence. That's all ahead, guys. So stay with us as we continue unfolding uh, this conversation. So thank
Okay.
you, Bernice.
Thank you. See you next
See
time,
you
Monique.
next time. Thinking about sharing your Angelcestor story? First, thank you. This process is powerful, but can be emotional too. Please check in with yourself and talk to someone you trust before submitting. Now, a few things to know. Your story is anonymous unless you give us permission to use your name. We record most stories, but not all of them are aired. Our duty is to the listener and to the craft of telling their Angelcestor story. This isn't about just being heard, it's about being of service. Think of yourself as an Angelcestor in training. Are you ready to submit? If you are, visit bernicelmcfadden.com/Angelcestor. And above all, take care of your spirit.
Another name remembered, another life honored. Thank you for listening to Angelcestor. If something here stirred you, carry it, share it, speak it, subscribe to it. And if you've got a story to tell about the ones still walking with you, come through by submitting your story. I'm Bernice McFadden. Until next time, stay in the story.